On West 54th Street, outside the Hilton Hotel, Brian Thompson, the 50-year-old CEO of UnitedHealthcare, steps out into the crisp morning. He's in a suit, probably thinking about the company's big investor conference happening that day. He's a father of two, a guy at the top of his game, unaware that death is stalking him. Then, out of nowhere, a figure emerges from between two parked cars. He's masked, dressed in dark clothing, his movements eerily calm. In his hand is a 3D printed ghost gun, fitted with a silencer to muffle the horror about to unfold. Without a word, he steps up behind Thompson, raises the pistol, and fires. Pop, pop, pop. The shots are precise, tearing into Thompson's back and legs. Blood sprays onto the sidewalk, staining the concrete as Thompson collapses, his body crumpling like a rag doll. The gunman doesn't flinch. He steps closer, fires again point blank, ensuring his target won't get up. Shell casings clatter to the ground, each one etched with words: deny, delay, depose. A message, a taunt, a manifesto in metal. Screams pierce the air. Bystanders freeze, their morning routine shattered by the sight of Thompson's lifeless body, his blood pooling under the neon glow of the city. The gunman doesn't run. He walks away, cool as ice, melting into the crowd like a ghost. Within minutes, the NYPD swarms the scene, cordoning off the street. Thompson's body lies still, his eyes open, staring at nothing. The coroner later confirms he was shot multiple times, 5 bullets, at least, ripping through his spine, lungs, and major arteries. Death was quick but brutal, a public execution in one of the busiest cities in the world. This wasn't a random act. This was a meticulously planned assassination, a murder that would spark a nationwide manhunt and ignite a firestorm of debate. The killer? Luigi Nicholas Mangione, a 26-year-old from Maryland with a master's degree from Penn and a grudge that burned hot enough to kill. His weapon wasn't just a gun. It was a notebook filled with rage, a fake ID, and a plan months in the making. The words on those shell casings? They were a middle finger to the healthcare industry, a system Mangione blamed for his pain and the suffering of millions. But why? How does a golden boy from a wealthy family end up pulling the trigger on a CEO? Let's rewind and dig into the life of a killer. Luigi Nicholas Mangione was born on May 6, 1998, in Towson, Maryland, into a world of privilege most people can only dream of. His parents, Kathleen Zunino and Louis Mangione, were part of a prominent Baltimore family, descended from Italian immigrants who'd built an empire. His grandfather, Nicholas Mangione, was a real estate titan, owning country clubs, nursing homes, and a radio station. The Mangiones were the kind of family that had their name on buildings, their legacy etched in the Baltimore skyline. Luigi grew up surrounded by wealth, opportunity, and expectations, one of 37 grandchildren in a sprawling, tight-knit clan. His cousin, Nino Mangione, even became a Maryland state delegate, rubbing shoulders with political bigwigs. As a kid, Luigi was a golden child. Picture a curly-haired boy with a quick smile, always the smartest in the room. He went to Loyola Blakefield, a prestigious Catholic prep school in Baltimore, where he was valedictorian, the kind of kid who made teachers beam and classmates jealous. Friends described him as charming, witty, a guy who didn't have any enemies. He was the life of the party, posting beach photos and frat bro selfies, his tan, chiseled face lighting up social media. After high school, he headed to University of Pennsylvania, an Ivy League powerhouse, where he earned a bachelor's and master's in computer science by 2020. At Penn, he founded a video game development club, mentored younger students, and even worked as a head counselor at Stanford pre-college program. On paper, Luigi was a rock star, smart, driven, destined for greatness. But there were cracks beneath the surface. In his early 20s, Luigi started battling chronic back pain, a condition that would haunt him for years. He posted on Reddit about undergoing spinal surgery in June 2023, describing the agony and frustration of a body that wouldn't cooperate. Friends from a co-living surfing community in Hawaii, where he'd spent time, said the pain forced him to leave, cutting short his laid-back island life. This wasn't just physical pain. It was a psychological weight, chipping away at the confident, carefree Luigi everyone knew. He started to withdraw, his social media presence fading, his once vibrant life growing quieter. By 2023, Luigi was back in Maryland, working as a data engineer for TrueCar, a car-buying website. It was a solid gig, but he left that year, and his whereabouts became murky. His mother filed a missing person report in San Francisco in November 2024, a red flag that something was seriously wrong. When police contacted her after the murder, she didn't outright name Luigi as a suspect, but chillingly said it might be something that she could see him doing. What the hell happened to the golden boy? How did a kid with everything, money, brains, charm, end up with a gun in his hand and a CEO in his crosshairs? To understand Luigi's transformation, we've got to dig into his head, and let me tell you, it's a dark place. This wasn't spur-of-the-moment crime. It was a slow burn, fueled by pain, rage, and a growing obsession with the healthcare industry. Luigi's chronic back pain wasn't just a physical issue. It was a gateway to disillusionment. Navigating the American healthcare system, with its endless bureaucracy, claim denials, and sky-high costs, likely felt like a personal betrayal. He wasn't alone in this. Millions of Americans hate the system, blaming insurers like UnitedHealthcare for prioritizing profits over people. But for Luigi, this wasn't just a gripe. It became a crusade. Investigators found a notebook in Luigi's possession after his arrest, and it's like something out of a psychological thriller. Handwritten pages, scrawled with fury, laid out his hatred for the healthcare industry and its wealthy executives. An entry from August 15th, 2024 read, "The details are finally coming together, hinting at a plan taking shape." Another from October talked about his intent to whack an insurance company CEO, with the industry as a target because it checks every box. The notebook wasn't just a diary. It was a manifesto, a blueprint for murder. He called insurers parasitic, echoing a sentiment shared by many but taking it to a deadly extreme. Luigi's writings also suggest he drew inspiration from a notorious figure, Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber. Like Kaczynski, who mail-bombed to protest technology's grip on society, Luigi saw himself as a revolutionary, using violence to spark change. On a Goodreads account linked to him, he praised Kaczynski's manifesto, writing, "While these actions tend to be characterized as those of crazy Luddite, they are more accurately seen as those of an extreme political revolutionary." The NYPD's intelligence analysis noted this connection, pointing out that Luigi's targeting of a corporate titan mirrored Kaczynski's attacks on tech pioneers. But unlike Kaczynski, Luigi didn't act alone in spirit. His crime tapped into a vein of public anger, making him a folk hero to some and a terrorist to others. Psychologically, Luigi's profile is complex. He doesn't fit the mold of a typical murderer. No history of violence, no obvious mental illness, no criminal record. But experts point to traits of narcissistic personality disorder and grandiose delusions. Luigi saw himself as a savior, a lone warrior taking on a corrupt system. His meticulous planning, fake IDs, a 3D printed gun, months of reconnaissance, shows a calculating mind, not a reckless one. Yet there's also a hint of despair, a man broken by pain and disillusionment, lashing out a world he felt had failed him. His back surgery, likely a financial and emotional ordeal, may have been a tipping point, turning personal suffering into a vendetta against an entire industry. Greed wasn't a factor. Luigi didn't stand to gain financially. This was about ideology, power, and revenge. The shell casings marked delay, Depose were a nod to the 3DS of insurance, a phrase critics use to describe tactics insurers allegedly employ to avoid paying claims. By etching these words, Luigi was sending a message. This wasn't just about Brian Thompson. It was about a system he believed was killing people through neglect. But why Thompson specifically? As UnitedHealthcare CEO, he was the face of the largest private insurer in the U.S., a symbol of everything Luigi despised. Killing him wasn't just murder, it was a statement. Let's break down the crime itself, because the details are as chilling as they are precise. Luigi didn't wake up one day and decide to kill. He planned this for months, maybe longer. According to federal complaint, he targeted Brian Thompson because of his role at UnitedHealthcare, a company Luigi saw as the epitome of corporate greed. Thompson, 50, was named CEO in April 2021, overseeing a behemoth that insured millions but faced constant criticism for claim denials and high premiums. To Luigi, he was the perfect target, a wealthy executive whose death would send shockwaves through the industry. Luigi's preparation was meticulous, almost cinematic in its detail. He arrived in New York City on November 24th, 2024, 10 days before the murder, checking into a hostel on the Upper West Side under a fake New Jersey ID. For over a week, he stalked Thompson, tracking his movements around the Hilton Hotel and the conference venue where UnitedHealthcare's annual investor meeting was set to take place. He did reconnaissance, biking around Midtown to map out escape routes and vantage points. He studied Thompson's schedule, knowing exactly when the CEO would be vulnerable. This wasn't a crime of passion. It was a calculated hit. On the morning of December 4th, Luigi was ready. He woke early, dressed in dark clothing, and slipped a black mask over his face. In his backpack was a 3D printed 9mm pistol, a ghost gun with no serial number, untraceable and deadly. He'd fitted it with a 3D printed silencer, ensuring the shots would be muffled, buying him precious seconds to escape. The gun held a loaded Glock magazine with 6 9mm full metal jacket rounds, plus 1 hollow point round for maximum damage. He also carried multiple fake IDs, an American passport, and a notebook outlining his motives. This was a man prepared for war. At around 6:45 a.m., Luigi positioned himself on West 54th Street, hiding between 2 parked cars. The street was busy but not chaotic, the perfect moment for an ambush. As Thompson walked by, unaware, Luigi stepped out, his heart likely pounding but his hands steady. He fired multiple shots into Thompson's back, the silenced pistol-spitting bullets with deadly precision. Thompson fell, blood pouring from his wounds. But Luigi wasn't done. He closed in, firing again at point-blank range, ensuring his target was dead. The shell casings, marked with deny, delay, and depose, scattered across the sidewalk, a grim signature of his intent. Then, just as calmly as he'd appeared, Luigi walked away. He ditched the bike he'd used to get to the scene, blending into the morning crowd. Surveillance footage captured a man matching his description, masked and purposeful, moving through Midtown before vanishing. Back at the hostel, he likely packed his things, knowing the city would soon be on lockdown. By the time police found Thompson's body, Luigi was already planning his next move, heading out of New York to avoid the dragnet closing in. The murder sent New York City into a frenzy. The NYPD flooded Midtown, helicopters buzzing overhead, as detectives scoured the scene for clues. Thompson's body was still warm when the first officers arrived, his blood staining the sidewalk, his briefcase lying nearby. The shell casings of first big break, those words, deny, delay, depose, pointed to a motive tied to the healthcare industry. Surveillance footage showed the masked gunman, his bushy eyebrows a distinctive feature under mask, moving with chilling confidence. The NYPD released these images to the public, plastering them across TV screens and social media, begging for tips. For 5 days, Luigi was a ghost. The manhunt stretched across the Northeast, with the FBI joining the NYPD in a desperate bid to catch him. Tips poured in, but Luigi was smart. He'd used cash, fake IDs, and stayed off the grid. His mother's missing person report, filed in San Francisco, raised red flags, but she didn't connect the dots until police reached out. On December 9th, 2024, the break came. A customer at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, 230 miles west of New York, recognized Luigi from the wanted posters. He was sitting there, eating breakfast, looking like any other guy, except for the backpack at his feet, stuffed with evidence. Police swooped in, arresting Luigi without a fight. In his backpack, they found the smoking gun, literally, a 3D printed pistol, matching the murder weapon, complete with silencer and 6 9mm rounds. They also found fake IDs, including the one used at the hostel, an American passport, and the notebook that laid out his hatred for the healthcare industry. Luigi didn't resist, but he wasn't silent either. As he was dragged into a Pennsylvania courthouse for an extradition hearing, he shouted at reporters, "That's completely out of touch, an insult to the intelligence of the American people." It was a glimpse into his defiance, a man who saw himself as a revolutionary, not a criminal. Luigi's arrest didn't end the story. It set off a firestorm. The public reaction was unlike anything in recent memory. To some, Luigi was a monster, a cold-blooded killer who gunned down an innocent man, a father, in broad daylight. To others, he was a folk hero, a David taking on the Goliath of the healthcare industry. Social media exploded with memes, murals, and merchandise. A billboard in Riverside County, California, read, "Free Luigi." A Seattle mural depicted him as a Nintendo character Luigi, complete with a green hat. Etsy and Amazon were flooded with Mangione merino sweaters, mimicking the Nordstrom crew neck he wore in court, and T-shirts proclaiming his cause. His jail commissary account racked up donations for snacks, sodas, an iPad, and he received over 100 pieces of mail from supporters. This wasn't just a murder case. It was a cultural phenomenon. Opinion polls showed Americans were split, with younger and liberal respondents more likely to view Luigi favorably, fueled by widespread anger at health insurers. The case sparked calls for reform, with activists pointing to claim denial practices as a public health crisis. But not everyone was cheering. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro called Luigi a coward, not a hero, and NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch condemned the senseless killing. Thompson's family, devastated, mourned a man described as a loving father and dedicated leader, not the corporate villain Luigi painted him as. Luigi's online fame took bizarre turns. After a February 2025 court appearance, photos of his shackled bare ankles and brown loafers went viral, with Google searches for Luigi Mangione loafers spiking 1,400%. Criminologist Diana Ricard told Women's Wear Daily, he has quickly become a folk hero and a fashion folk hero. Supporters wore green, Luigi's signature color, outside courtrooms, chanting for healthcare reform. His legal defense fund raised over $500,000, and a website run by his team shared updates, including a statement from Luigi. "I am overwhelmed by and grateful for everyone who has written me to share their stories and express their support." Luigi's legal troubles are a tangled mess, with 20 charges across 3 jurisdictions: federal, New York State, and Pennsylvania. The federal case, filed December 19, 2024, is the heaviest, with 4 counts. Murder using a firearm, 2 counts of stalking, and a firearms offense involving a silencer. These carry a potential death penalty, a fate sealed when Attorney General Pam Bondi announced on April 1, 2025, that prosecutors would seek capital punishment, citing President Trump's agenda to stop violent crime and make America safe again. Bondi called the murder an act of political violence, noting its public nature and risk to bystanders. In New York, Luigi faces 11 state charges, including first-degree murder as an act of terrorism, 2 counts of second-degree murder, and various weapons and forgery counts. If convicted, he's looking at life without parole. Pennsylvania tacked on 5 charges: forgery, illegal firearms possession, and false identification, stemming from his arrest. These carry lesser penalties, but keep the case active. Luigi pleaded not guilty to all state charges on December 23, 2024, but has yet to enter a plea on the federal counts, as he's still awaiting a grand jury indictment. His defense team, led by Karen Friedman Agnifilo, a former Manhattan prosecutor, is fighting tooth and nail. Agnifilo argues the dual state and federal charges raise double jeopardy concerns, calling them highly unusual and confusing. She's challenged the legality of Luigi's arrest, claiming Pennsylvania police violated his Fourth Amendment rights by searching his backpack without proper cause. She's also accused New York Mayor Eric Adams and NYPD officials of leaking sensitive details, prejudicing Luigi's right to a fair trial. In court, she's painted Luigi as a man driven by principle, not malice, though she's careful not to justify the killing. The prosecution, led by Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg and acting U.S. Attorney Edward Kim, has a mountain of evidence. Fingerprints at the crime scene match Luigi's. Surveillance footage shows a man matching his description before and after shooting. The ghost gun silencer and fake IDs tie him directly to the crime. The notebook, with its damning entries, lays out his motive and plan. Prosecutors say they've never seen a case with a higher volume of quality evidence. The state case is expected to go to trial first, with a status hearing set for February 21st, 2025, and the federal case following on March 19th. Luigi's team is pushing for a specially configured laptop to review the 800 gigabytes of discovery, including thousands of hours of surveillance video. The DA's office objects, citing threats to witnesses and the sensitive nature of the material. Luigi's lawyers have also asked a federal judge to block the death penalty, arguing Bondi's decision was a political stunt that ignored Justice Department procedures. They claim Luigi's mitigation submission, detailing his mental state and background, was dismissed without review. The judge's ruling could set a precedent in this high-stakes case. What drove Luigi to kill? It's a million-dollar question, and the answer lies in a toxic brew of pain, ideology, and delusion. Psychologically, Luigi is a paradox, a high-achieving, charismatic guy who spiraled into a dark obsession. Experts point to narcissistic traits. His belief that he alone could spark a revolution suggests a grandiose self-image. His meticulous planning and public execution style scream a need for control and attention, a desire to be remembered as a martyr, not a murderer. His chronic back pain was likely a catalyst. Chronic illness can erode mental health, fostering resentment and hopelessness. Navigating the healthcare system, with its red tape and denials, may have felt like a personal attack, especially for someone used to success. Luigi's Reddit post about his surgery hinted frustration, but the notebook takes it further, revealing a fixation on systemic injustice. He didn't just blame UnitedHealthcare. He saw it as a symbol of a broken world, with Thompson as its figurehead. The Kaczynski connection is telling. Luigi admired the Unabomber's radical rejection of modern systems, seeing parallels in his own fight against corporate greed. Like Kaczynski, he used violence to force a conversation, believing the ends justified the means. But unlike Kaczynski, Luigi tapped into a cultural moment. Public anger at healthcare costs and claimed denials gave his crime a twisted legitimacy in some eyes. This wasn't just a murder. It was a performance, staged for maximum impact. There's also a hint of depressive realism, a psychological state where someone sees the world's flaws with brutal clarity. Luigi's notebook suggests he felt betrayed by a system that promised care but delivered pain. His isolation, leaving True Car, drifting from Hawaii, losing touch with family, points to a man unmoored, turning inward until rage was all he had left. Yet he wasn't irrational. His planning, from crafting a ghost gun to etching shell casings, shows a lucid, methodical mind, making his actions all the more terrifying. Luigi Mangione's case isn't just a legal battle. It's a mirror held up to society. The public's reaction, reveals a deep divide. To his supporters, he's a vigilante, a man who took on a system that's left millions broke, sick, or dead. Posts on X call him a hero, with hashtags like #FreeLuigi trending. Memes depict him as a saint, a green-hatted avenger. His defense fund and mail influx show a groundswell of sympathy, especially among younger people fed up with corporate America. But to others, he's a terrorist, a privileged kid who threw away his life to kill a man who didn't deserve it. Thompson's family, speaking through UnitedHealthcare, describe him as a devoted dad, not a faceless suit. Critics argue Luigi's actions set back reform, giving insurers a martyr to rally behind. The NYPD and FBI warn of copycats, with extremists potentially seeing Luigi as a blueprint. Governor Shapiro's condemnation, "The suspect is a coward, not a hero," sums up this view. The case has fueled debates about healthcare reform, jury nullification, and the death penalty. Some legal experts speculate jurors might sympathize with Luigi's motives, leading to nullification, where a jury acquits despite evidence. Others see his folk hero status as a symptom of a broken system, where desperation breeds radicalism. Either way, Luigi's name is etched in history, a lightning rod for a nation's frustrations. As of April 18, 2025, Luigi sits in the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, held without bail alongside high-profile inmates like Sean Diddy Combs. He's 26, facing the fight of his life. The state trial, expected first, could lock him away for life without parole. The federal case, with its death penalty threat, looms larger. His next state court date is February 21st, 2025, with the federal hearing on March 19th. His lawyers are battling to suppress evidence, block the death penalty, and ensure a fair trial, but the odds are stacked against him. Luigi remains defiant. His statement to supporters, posted on his defense website, shows no remorse, only gratitude for the transcendent support. He reads every letter, he says, and looks forward to more. But the reality is grim. If convicted federally, he could face execution by lethal injection or firing squad, a fate tied to Trump's hardline crime policies. Even if he avoids death, life in a supermax prison awaits, a far cry from the beaches of Hawaii or the halls of Penn. The case is ongoing, with new developments expected. Witnesses have reported threats, complicating discovery, and Luigi's team continues to challenge leaks from officials like Mayor Adams. Whatever the outcome, Luigi Mangione has left a scar on America, a reminder that rage, when left to fester, can turn a promising life into a horror story.